Hello, everyone. Faitine here, Thursday night. Please like, share, get this in the feeds of your friends, and let's chat about what is happening literally right now, almost in real time with C-9. This is Faitine for my Canada. It is after dinner time here, so please excuse my darkish sort of vibe to my office, but I needed to hop on here and give you all an update on what we just found out about C-9. Thank you so much for everybody who's been tracking with this. Of course, this is the hate speech legislation that, if it passes into law, would remove protection for sincerely held faith beliefs in Canada. There are several aspects of the bill that are problematic. And so we have been working hard. You have been working hard. We've all been making phone calls, speaking out, asking our leaders to either amend or end the bill. MP Andrew Lawton. So first off, let me know where you're from. Again, please like, share, and hit that little love emoji, because the love emoji will get it up in the algorithms. But breaking news, the Liberals are limiting debate. It looks like a notice was just put forward in the House of Commons to limit debate on C-9, which means that they have officially made the move to rush this bill back to the floor of the House of Commons. If they're rushing it back to the floor of the House of Commons, my read on it is it's because they want it to pass as quickly as they can, get it to pass, and that they are just hoping Canadians will forget about what just happened. So let's talk about this. I'm actually going to share screen here. Some of you have probably already seen the posts that I did on some of our streams and where I got this information. It was actually Andrew Lawton, Member of Parliament Andrew Lawton. He has been one of the champions in the Justice Committee, just tweeted this out. And this is actually a screen share of his tweet. I'm actually going to read this. He says, breaking in capital letters, breaking, and this was posted about an hour ago. The Liberals have put a motion on notice in the House of Commons to cut off debate on Bill C-9 and force all amendments to a vote with no discussion. He goes on to say they are censoring debate on their censorship bill. So this is just bottom lining it, kind of dumbing it down, making it plain for Jane. If your name is Jane, take it as a compliment. Andrew's talking to you. He's just making it nice and plain here. But let's actually read what the notice says here. There's a lot of parliamentary verbiage, jargon in it, but I'm going to rattle through this because from what I can tell, they're actually planning on limiting debate not only in the committee, in the Justice Committee, not only forcing a vote without allowing full-blown debate to happen, but it looks like they're also going to be limiting debate on the floor of the House of Commons when it returns, which means they're wanting it to go very swiftly through the Justice Committee, and also swiftly through third reading on the floor of the House of Commons. And, I want to remind everybody that this is being put through right now by the Liberal Bloc coalition. The Liberals missed getting a majority government in the last federal election by under 60 votes spread across 3 ridings. It was a very, very tight race. And so they ended up coming out with their minority, which means that they have to work together with another party to get all of their bills passed. And the Bloc want this bill to pass. So this is an alliance move. This is an initiative of the two parties banding together. But let's read this notice here. It's a little bit long, but it'll give you time to share the feed. There you go. So this was posted March 5th. That is today, 2026. The leader of the government in the House of Commons, that notwithstanding any standing order or usual practice of the House, Bill C-9, an act to amend the criminal code, hate propaganda, hate crime, and access to religious or cultural spaces, be disposed as follows. So they're making a notice that the following is being ordered. Point A being that it be an instruction to the Standing Committee on Justice and Human Rights that during its consideration of the bill, talking about C-9, the committee shall have the first priority for use of House resources for committee meetings. So that means that they're saying they don't want anything to limit the ability for the Justice Committee to proceed. If need be, resources will be pulled from other parliamentary committees in order to make the Justice Committee happen. And then goes on to say, at the next meeting of the committee following the adoption of this order, the committee shall immediately resume clause by clause consideration of the bill, whereupon all remaining amendments submitted to the committee shall be deemed moved. So no more debate. They shall be deemed moved. The chair shall put the question forthwith and successively without further debate on all remaining clauses. No more debate on all remaining clauses and proposed amendments and sub-amendments, as well as each and every question necessary to dispose of clause by clause consideration of the bill. So they're saying we are moving this, and the committee shall not adjourn. So they're not going home until it has disposed of the bill, that the bill has gone to the next parliamentary phase. The chair shall report the bill to the House no later than 2 sitting days after the completion of clause by clause consideration. So my understanding of this means that if Justice meets on Monday, which I'm assuming they're going to, that they are going to get this done. They're not going home unless something changes. They are not going home until Bill C-9 has been completely taken off the table, that all the motions, amendments have been voted on, no more debate, and then it goes back to the floor of the House of Commons by Wednesday. I'm assuming Wednesday, maybe Thursday. Somebody else will share the fine details with us. But my read on that is that it would have to go back to the floor of the House of Commons by Wednesday. And then the bill will be, the report, from the committee will be given to the floor of the House of Commons. And then they are also limiting how much time they're going to take for that portion. So point Bill B here says the bill may be taken up at report stage at the next sitting of the House following the completion of the provisions of all these subparagraphs that just were rattled off. Not more than, point number C, not more than 1 sitting day shall be allowed to the consideration of the bill at report stage. And 15 minutes before the expiry of the time provided for the government order that day, or when no member wishes to speak, whichever is earlier. And proceedings before the House shall be interrupted, and in turn, every question necessary for the disposal of the said stage of the bill shall be put forward and successively without further debate or amendment. And if a recorded division is requested, it shall not be deferred except pursuant to Standing Order 76.18. And point number D here is not more than 1 sitting day shall be allotted to the consideration of the bill at third reading stage, and 15 minutes before the expiry of the time provided for government orders that day, or when no member wishes to speak, whichever is earlier. So they're saying the maximum that they're going to allow for deliberation over the report or debate over the report will be 1 day. And then it looks like this thing's going to be voted on. That is my read of this. Now, I am not a member of parliament. I'm not a lawyer. I am not a parliamentary legal assistant, not a paralegal, none of that stuff. I'm a mom that cares about my religious freedoms and the religious freedoms of my children. But my read on this is they are limiting it at justice, at the committee, limiting it at debate, and then they're going to be voting it. And my read on this would be that the government would probably then encourage the Senate to fast track it as well. So this is the notice that was just tabled possibly 2 hours ago or less, I'm not sure, but today by the government. So what does this mean? Okay, well, first of all, I want to just chat for a minute here. What this does not mean is that your calls did not make a difference. I am so proud of our network here. Oh, wow. Look at this. This is somebody calling from Parliament right now. Just give me a minute, guys. I'm going to put this back up here. You can just take a look. Give me a minute. I'm going to pick this up. All right, all right. Well, hey, that was very interesting. That was one of my primary sources from the House of Commons, so I needed to take that call. But yeah, I just fact checked myself, and it would seem that my read on this is correct. Limiting debate at the Justice Committee, and then most likely trying to limit debate on the floor of the House of Commons. Okay, so let's talk. Let's have a little family chat here. So let's talk. First of all, I want to say this, and that is that your calls have absolutely made a difference. Your calls are what have caused it to be delayed even this far. If it wasn't for your phone calls, this would already be in the Senate. So I do want to say that. I want to give you a big high five and say, give yourself a back pat, and just know that your efforts really have made a difference, and they will continue to make a difference. I also want to emphasize with highlight asterisks here that it is the phone calls that matter most. Everything else is bonus. The petitions, the emails, the rallies, all that stuff is gravy. But the thing that really will have the greatest impact here is the phones and those face-to-face contacts. Basically, the Liberals have been doing their political calculus here, trying to figure out whether or not it is politically lethal for them to push this through. They have heard very clearly from the Christian community. They could hear more because there are more of us. And I know that for sure, just by the numbers that we see here. Like we have logged now through our calling campaign, almost 60,000 phone calls. As a matter of fact, as of this exact minute, we are just under 60,000 phone calls that have been logged just through For My Canada. That's amazing. But that's not 60,000 people. Those phone calls have been done probably by a few thousand people. And there are a lot more than a few thousand Christians in Canada, of course, right? The other thing is, my understanding is that the Christian faith community has been the most mobilized, the most engaged on this, obviously with Minister Miller basically saying straight up that he thinks that 3 books of the Bible, if there are verses that are publicly read, excuse me, it's late, guys, but if there are 3 books of the Bible, that if scriptures from those books, certain scriptures are read out loud, that people should be charged for hate crimes. And so that is directly targeting, obviously, the Christian faith and the Jewish faith as well, because one of the books he mentioned was in the Old Testament. But all this to say, it is very possible that the real tipping point in this is going to be the Muslim community or perhaps the Sikh community. So if you have friends in that community, now is the time to ask them, hey, are you aware of C-9? And have you already made phone calls? Have you already encouraged your spheres to make phone calls? More is always better in these moments, because the bottom line is that if the Liberals and the Bloc believe that this is going to be politically harmful to them, they will stop it. And so what do we need to be saying when we are making those powerful phone calls right now? Well, number one, we need to basically say we have come to understand that that the Liberals are planning on limiting debate. We are asking that debate on C-9 would not be limited, that it would not be limited in the Justice Committee, and that it would not be limited on the floor of the House of Commons. They can always change their minds. And so you want to be encouraging them not to limit debate and letting them know. I think it's really, really important for Canadians to let our members of Parliament know when you call, that how you and your family and those that you interface with, that how you vote personally and how those that you know vote will very well be dependent on how this rolls out. And that let them know that they will feel this in the next election should debate on C-9 be limited, and should they ram this through. My source that just called me in real time here, I fact checked this as well. I said, if we're seeing them push it through the floor of the House of Commons, does that mean that they will most likely encourage the Senate to limit debate as well? And my source did just say, yes, most likely. So if they're limiting debate on the floor of the House of Commons, we can definitely assume that there will be pressure on the senators to limit debate as well and just get this pushed through. Who knows why they're doing this? Maybe they are posturing for a possible spring election. Maybe they just want to get this through before a possible spring election. Maybe they want people like us to forget, because typically what happens in these situations is people go on with their lives and they start thinking about the next thing. But let's send them the message that this really matters to us, that freedom of faith really matters to us, that we are watching, and that we will remember this during the next election, whether that is this spring or some other time. The other thing that we need to encourage is a free vote. Let's ask Prime Minister Carney to ensure that he allows a free vote on C-9. There are members of the Liberal caucus that have been on record saying that they are opposed to C-9. So let's ask Prime Minister Carney to ensure that there is a free vote on C-9, so that hopefully a large portion of the Liberal caucus will decide to vote against this because of that Bloc amendment specifically, but also because of the other problematic elements of this bill, namely that it waters down or makes the definition of hate speech more ambiguous, and also removes an important check and balance that will protect Canadians who hold sincerely held faith beliefs. I want to remind us all, the backdrop of this right now is Barry Neufeld just got fined by the BC Human Rights Tribunal $750,000, $750,000 because of things that he said several years ago that related to his view on there being only 2 genders, and his view being reflected, being a reflection of his sincerely held faith faith beliefs. I'm going to have a late night coffee here, guys. Somebody holler at me and tell me I'm doing okay here. Just give me a minute. Or a second. There's a sip. Okay. It's my Holy Spirit mic, right? So anyway, I know you guys are tracking with me. So this is big breaking news. I also want to say this. We have done just under 60,000 phone calls that have been registered through our calling campaign. But our strategists, those that we refer to behind the scenes, when I asked them the question, how many phone calls will it take to really move the needle on this? And they said to me that they felt that the number that would hoop this thing is about 100,000. So that means through our network, we're about 60% of the way to that 100,000 mark. I will say this, and I just want to be honest and transparent. We saw a real surge of phone calls in late January when we did the 12 days of freedom, but the phone calls really have tapered off. And so they're probably taking that as a signal that Canadians are going back to sleep on this issue. And that's a signal that they want. And we want to send them the opposite signal. And that's that we are not going to sleep on this. And so if maybe you started making those phone calls back in January, maybe you kind of, moved on to other things, I want to encourage you to pick it back up. And so on that note, I'm actually going to show you where you can find the call list. The most impactful thing that you can do is not a petition. It's not an email. It's not even a rally. It is a phone call. This is what members of parliament have consistently said. So right here, there is a button that says make calls for C-9. And when you click on that button, this is through our website, formycanada.com. You'll see the little ticker here down at the bottom, formycanada.com. That will bring you to our homepage. This button right here, make calls for C-9, will bring you to two lists. The first list is the first to call list. And then the second list is the bonus list, the next to call list, which is all of the Liberal members of parliament here that have not already been called on the first to call list. And so for those of you that are just tuning in, Faitine here with For My Canada, breaking news. I'll read Andrew Lawton's tweet here. The Liberals have put a motion on notice in the House of Commons to cut off debate on Bill C-9 and force all amendments to a vote with no discussion. They are censoring debate on their censorship bill. So breaking news for those of you that are just jumping on. The Liberals are planning on shutting down debate at the Justice Committee on C-9, the bill that will remove protection for sincerely held faith beliefs. And they are also going to be limiting debate on the floor of the House of Commons. So breaking news just posted within the last couple of hours. So that's where things are at literally right now. Let me do a little cough. So how are y'all feeling about this? This is what I would say. It is never over until it's over. So as long as there is still air in this thing, we have the opportunity to be a voice. And I want to encourage you to do this. This one matters not only for us, but for our babies. And one thing that we've seen time and time again with bills like this is that once a door is opened on an ideological bill like this, usually it's very, very hard. As a matter of fact, I have never seen something reeled back in once it has been opened. Of course, the most recent example being medical assistance in dying. When it was first passed in 2016, we were told that it was only going to be for terminal illnesses and for those whose death was imminent. It was right there in the foreseeable future, and that it was going to be rare. And now we are looking at a trigger clause in March of 2027, which will expand access even more for medical assistance in dying to the mentally vulnerable. Last report I saw, medical assistance in dying is the number four killer in Canada. And that's if you don't include abortion. If you include abortion, it would be number 5. And so almost 100,000 Canadians have now been killed by medical assistance in dying, government funded death, the administration of death by the government and paid for by our tax dollars. And so why am I pointing this out? Because this is an example of a piece of legislation that opened a door to a trajectory. And this is why C-9 matters, because C-9 is one of those pieces of legislation that very well could open a door to a trajectory of criminalizing sincerely held faith beliefs in Canada. And so big news, breaking news. Thank you again for everybody that has been making the phone calls. Please keep it up, keep it going. This is your list right here, C-9 target list. We are at about 60,000 registered phone calls right now. By the way, people have asked, how do I register? It says right here, register your stats. So once you if you get off this, actually, hopefully some of you are already making calls even while I'm doing this stream. But when you make those phone calls, then circle back to the same page, click here to register your stats. And that will enable us to track and communicate with our elected officials exactly how many calls have been made through our network specifically. ARPA Canada is planning a rally in Ottawa on the 12th next week. Hopefully that's not too late. We won't know till we get to next week. But one thing that we do know is that this notice has been tabled, that the Liberals are ending debate on their censoring debate on the censorship bill, as Andrew Lawton puts it. And this is definitely off to the races. So the window just got a lot smaller, and that's the bottom line. And so just to dumb this down, the window just got a lot smaller. We might only have a few more days left to be a voice on this in terms of its status in the House of Commons. Then it will go to the Senate if it passes through the House of Commons. Hopefully it won't. So our window just got shorter. And the thing that matters most in terms of advocacy and action, of course, prayer is a thing as well. But I do want to say this, don't pray only, pray and act. You know, if we're a person of faith, if we are people of faith, the Christian faith, you know, Jesus modeled it for us. He always prayed first, but he never stopped at the place of prayer. He always got up and went to the place of action. You know, he went to the Garden of Gethsemane, but then he went to Golgotha and, you know, was bloodied in the public square. And so the model of Christ is to start in the place of prayer, but to not stop there. So pick up the phone, pray as you do it. Say, Lord, bless my phone call, make it anointed, make it powerful, make it awesome, bless it. And continue to get messages here. Bless it, make it powerful, and multiply it. Please share this with your friends. This is a very important video. Please share this with your friends. Share this with your like-minded loved ones. Get them to go to that website, formycanada.com. I'm going to make it bigger here, formycanada.com, where you will get the call list. And I'm going to try to make a shortened video as well that you can share out wider, but I did want to do this live stream. I also want to mention that I do have Andrew Lawton booked. We actually had this booked beforehand. I've got him booked for an interview tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So you can meet us right here, right around that time. We'll probably go live a little bit after that. Andrew and I are going to get on, and we're going to get a direct update from Andrew on his read of the situation. But just making this simple, all that matters right now is prayer-bathed phone calls. Okay, so let's all do that. I'm going to do some phone calls tonight, and thank you so much. Please like, love, share, get this out, subscribe to all of our stuff, and it will keep you connected with how things are going forward. Thanks for watching through. The nation goes.